Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman last night. The first round of the playoffs are about to begin. It's right around the corner. We've got our thoughts. We've got our Natty picks. This is First and Short. Stay tuned.
Welcome back into First and Short, your first place to get, short bits of college football news and analysis. It's Sunday, December 14th. We're going to go ahead and get to it, but before we do, please subscribe. We're on the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Hit that button and support us, please. Fernando Mendoza, he won the Heisman for the 2020-25 year. He started his career as a two-star prospect out of Miami. He initially planned on starting his collegiate football journey at Yale in the Ivy Leagues, but he got a late offer from Cal. He played there for a few years, and he actually, left Cal with the highest, record of, I think, highest career completion percentage at 66.4. So, I mean, he left it
better than he found it.
Yeah, exactly. He teamed up with Curt Cignetti and his brother, who was already at Indiana, and the rest has just been history. What we saw there this year, instant success. In his first and only season as the starter for Indiana, Mendoza completed a perfect 13-0 regular season, leading the Hoosiers to their first Big Ten Conference Championship since 1967, and they're the number one overall college football playoff seed going into the playoffs this year. Wow. So
very impressive. Yeah.
Very impressive. Right. So let's talk about the numbers a little bit here. I mean, he finished, the Heisman campaign of the 2025 season with, I think, 2,980 passing yards and a national best 33 passing touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. He also had 6 rushing touchdowns. So pretty impressive. Didn't make many mistakes. He wasn't just throwing it down there willy-nilly. Like he protected the ball very well. In terms of the Heisman connection, he became the 7th transfer quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy in the last 9 years. That just speaks to the evolving dynamic of college football right now. It's crazy. It's perfectly capturing that landscape.
I guess that's that 7th transfer quarter. Who else comes to mind? I guess Joe Burrow comes to mind. He transferred. Who else won it? Anyway, we don't have to go into that. But Aaron, I think that's a very fair choice. I mean, Fernando Mendoza had a great year. What was his Heisman moment for you this year?
Sure. I mean, the thing that really, drew my attention to him this year, because, Indiana, for me at first, they were just going to be one of those Big Ten teams that were going to do what they do until they face a dominant team like an Oregon or Ohio State. But they went on the road in Oregon, and, Mendoza, he showed poise that whole game, and he threw a key fourth quarter touchdown that pretty much, marked the start of the season for me to their team's dominance. So, shout out to Indiana, but shout out to Mendoza because he's truly led this team through a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, for me, a very similar story, like on the road. That game at Penn State, I understand Penn State went through what it did this season, but like for him to be able to, like Penn State was about to win, right? And so you can imagine what that environment was like, but he was just on point every play. To me, that was like, it wasn't one moment, it was that Heisman drive really, that I was like totally understandable, like why this guy earned it.
Yeah, no, fair. So, there were some other good candidates up there in the top 5, top 10. Would you have picked Fernando as your Heisman if it came down to your choice?
Yeah, if I was a ballot sender person, I think they get 3 choices. Fernando would definitely be in my top 3. I think maybe I'd go Jeremiah Love number 3, Fernando number 2, maybe Diego number 1. Diego just had a more dynamic play style, I think, which I personally like. So that might be just a personal choice. But I think the key thing that you said, he has a national best 33 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Not sure what Diego's number was, but if you're the Heisman has become a quarterback award. Let's just face it. But if you've got the highest numbers for the most passing touchdowns, and you're 13-0, like your team is there, the number one team, the Big Ten champ because of you, then you've earned it.
Yep.
What about you? Would you have picked him?
Yeah, it's hard to say, that he's not in my top two. Maybe it's hard to argue he's not one in any case scenario because he's got his team to the top. He even when the odds were against him in this conference championship game that didn't really have much meaning for either competitor, they found a way to topple Ohio State. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Aaron, I went back in our notes to find like who were our Heisman candidates. Man, it was like going back into a vault, bro. We picked Lenora Sellers and Cade Klubnik as our as our picks for the Heisman, and wasn't even close. Was it? We
Yeah.
had high hopes for those guys.
Hey,
But that just goes to show like the Final Four that made it, right? Like what a season, They were completely off everyone's radar, and they ended up becoming the nation's, four of the best.
I do want to mention in 2024, those picks were not crazy, right? These guys that come off electric seasons, Clemson made the playoffs, South
Yeah.
Carolina was on the bubble, but it just goes to show with the dynamic and how it changes every year, you have to be ready to battle every year and bring your A game because teams are going in the portal and getting better every single year.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Teams
Mhm.
are changing, can change year to year.
Yep.
Speaking of battles, let's talk about some battles this weekend. So the first round of the playoffs are starting up, starting this Friday night. We've got number 8 Oklahoma versus number 9 Alabama. Saturday we've got a whole slate of games. Number 7 Texas A&M versus number 10 Miami. Then later number 6 Ole Miss versus number 11 Tulane. Number 5 Oregon versus number 12 James Madison. Listen, Aaron, there's 4 games this weekend. Do we really need to talk about all 4 of them?
I don't think we do. Shame on us if something crazy happens, but I don't think we need to.
Yeah, listen, Ole Miss versus Tulane, it's a rematch. Ole Miss got that one. Oregon versus James Madison, that's going to be a splattering. Like, shout out to the G5 teams for getting 2 of them into the playoffs. It's a different realm. They play by similar rules, but these are different stratospheres of teams. So we'll skip those 2. We'll talk about the Oklahoma, Alabama, and the Texas A&M and Miami game. I'll start with the game at Friday night, 8 p.m. We got our first rematch of the postseason, number 8 Oklahoma versus number 9 Alabama. To me, it's been a little bit surprising. Oklahoma has actually won the last 2 matchups over the last couple of years versus Alabama. It's been a low-scoring affair each time. Aaron, is it fair to expect this again this time around?
I think it is just because of the defenses and how well they maintain their their dominance and composure, no matter what kind of changes we've seen within the offenses of these teams, right? Like both of these teams have quarterbacks who we thought could win the Heisman at one point in time. So
Yeah.
it's crazy to think, but no matter what, these defenses are still top tier. So yeah.
Yep. Yep. Very fair point. Yeah. On the other side of that, I think I am thinking it's going to be a low scoring game again as well, just because of the reports of Ty Simpson's injuries, like his back, I think herniated disc or whatever else it is. We kind of saw a different version of Ty Simpson in the SEC championship game, so that might have been something he was dealing with at the time. And then we've seen Oklahoma's lack of offensive power, throughout the season. So mixed with the defensive things that you mentioned, I think this will be another low scoring game, and which will make the turnover margin even more magnified, even more important. The last time these 2 teams played this season, it was a pretty close game, 23-21, but Alabama severely lost that turnover battle. They fumbled the ball 2 times, once really deep in their side of the field, and Ty Simpson also threw a pick 6. So all of that put together is what Oklahoma needed in order to barely win, a 23-21 game. it's hard for a defense to, as good as Oklahoma is, it's hard for a defense to replicate that kind of success. So it's with a game that close, with turnovers uncharacteristically that high, the statistics kind of indicate that it should be Alabama who wins this game if they play again. Unfortunately, the team roster might not be the same this second time around. Alabama was missing some key players in their loss to UGA in the SEC title game, namely Jam Miller, running back. They had -3 rushing yards. Josh Cuevas, tight end. LT Overton on the defensive line. If Alabama has a non-existing running game again against Oklahoma, this game it might get really ugly. I mean, Oklahoma has a much better defense than UGA and can make this game really, really bad for Alabama and Ty Simpson, especially if he's dealing with that back issue. And if they keep forcing him to throw the ball, if they can't get any success on running, it might look pretty bad. Josh Cuevas, he's been an important, safety valve for Simpson this season. It would be huge. It would be a huge factor if he was able to make it back for the game this weekend. Do you have any points on how, for Alabama to win this game? Do you have any points on what they would need to do?
Yeah, like you said, like not be one dimensional. I think if they're limited to just injured or grimaced, Ty Simpson having to do it all, I don't think this it's going to get it done. And then also they're going to have to be disciplined. Like you said, it's going to come down to turnovers no matter what. So if they can win the turnover margin battle, I mean, hey, they may get it done, but they're already at a disadvantage by playing on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. For Alabama to win this game, Ty Simpson just has to be on point, right?
Yep.
I think we saw last Saturday a lot of his passes were off target during that SEC championship game. So Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton, they have to be able to help Ty Simpson out any way that they can. And I think Kalen DeBoer's, game script will account for that when planning for this game. I think he is, as a head coach, I think he's elite at that. But the reason I think Oklahoma will win this game is that Oklahoma, especially on defense, is really good at making you question your game script. The quote that stuck out to me: "Everyone has a plan until they get knocked in the mouth." Kalen DeBoer seems to have trouble adjusting his game plan based on how the game is going. And with the injuries that have mounted for Alabama at those key positions that I mentioned, I think Oklahoma will be able to take care of business at home during the playoffs here in Norman. What do you think?
Interesting. I'm going to actually have to disagree with you there.
Okay.
So, the question everybody's wondering is, is Alabama done? Are they a bad team? What's going on? Are we in turmoil? To the Alabama fans out there, I think you can shut that down. I think you're here for a reason. You were playing in the SEC championship for a reason. You had so many tough games. You went through the gauntlet in your regular season schedule for a reason. Um, I think they finally had a chance to heal a little bit and actually take the time to to breathe and game plan. Right. I feel like playing in just those tough games back to back to back to back to back, they were kind of numb to tough games and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I think they honestly didn't prepare fully like they needed to for Georgia, and that's why we saw the outcome.
Mm.
But I think after that wake up call, they're going to come out, they're going to compete, and I think they're going to find a way to win.
Nice, nice. Does Kalen DeBoer take the Michigan job?
If I'm wrong and he gets blown out, you never know what could
Welcome to
happen.
Ann Arbor.
Yeah. All righty. So yeah, that's Friday night's game. Saturday, we got the triple header, but the main one we want to talk about is the first one of the day at 12, right? You got Texas A&M. They're hosting Miami. Let's start off by saying, Miami, they've only played 3 games this year outside of the state of Florida. That is insane. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. The toughest one being against Pitt, where they won it in a dominant fashion. Uh, they now have to come to College Station and endure the environment of 102,000 SEC fans yelling and trying to have them in a controlled chaos environment for 4 hours.
Imagine if
Uh,
this game was at night.
it just absolutely would not be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, on the other side, Texas A&M, however, is coming off a loss to their rival, where their once Heisman hopeful didn't play, up to his potential. He didn't have his best day, to say the least, right? Uh, the first round matchup is going to be interesting, and I think it actually is going to be unlike any of the others because neither team in this matchup played in the conference championship. So it'll be almost a month of no gameplay for either team. All other matchups in the first round have somebody who just came off a conference championship,
Hmm.
at least for one of the two teams, right? Uh I was watching ESPN earlier this week, and an ESPN commentator, he was actually talking about the teams who get bye weeks in the playoffs, but I was thinking about this for this matchup. Having this much time off, it can serve as, two things for teams. It can either serve as time to really get rest and to, reset for this matchup, or it can be time to rust.
Hmm. Hmm.
We saw each of those teams who got buys last year lose in the
Oh,
playoffs because
0 for 4
they
last year.
yeah, they pretty much rusted, right? So um it's going to be interesting to see if either team is rusted or rested in this game. Uh So yeah, with that being said, let's talk about some of the keys each team will need to bring.
Hmm.
So, at the quarterback position, it's so critical for each team's quarterback to be locked in and ready to play for this matchup. We've seen both teams struggle when their quarterbacks struggle. But Mash, in your opinion, which team needs their quarterback to execute more?
I would go for Miami and Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck needs to be on his A plus 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 game here. Texas defensive line is statistically the best in the nation at getting after the quarterback. They have the number one sack rate on passing downs, especially. So if Miami's offensive line, who in their own right, they're great in pass protection, by the way, if they can't contain Cassius Howell and the rest of the Aggies front, Carson Beck won't have the time to get his high completion passes off that he usually gets that we typically see. Texas A&M, they typically find more success running the ball anyway, than compared to Miami. So even if Marcel Reed has a, let's say, B plus game, they can at least lean on their rushing ability a little bit more. So to answer your question, Aaron, yeah, like Carson Beck, his performance needs to be um, at the top for in order for Miami to win.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, let's talk about the biggest things they have to face or hurdles they have to climb over. It's that
Hmm.
defensive pressure. I think the fun thing about both of these teams is, they have freak athletes on the defensive line, right? So for Miami, you have Ruben Bain Jr., right? He's the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and he's looking to cause a lot of havoc. He's a guy who has, I think, 7.5 tackles for loss this year and 4.5 sacks on the year. He's a central role in the defensive unit, and he's part of the reason why this team is ranked, nationally in terms of being a top defense. So, very interested to see how he's going to affect Marcel Reed. For Texas A&M, Mash, you already mentioned Cassius Howell. I mean, this guy, he's a first team All American, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Out of the two, he may be the scarier defender. I mean, this guy's got 11 and a half sacks on the year. Uh, with Carson Beck being a little less mobile than Marcel Reed, I think this is where Texas A&M will have the advantage.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and, kind of talk about where I think the outcome of this game will go. If it were at a neutral site, I'd give benefit of the doubt and say it would be, a very close game. But I think with the long break and Miami, never truly having to come into a hostile environment like this, I think it's going to rattle them. Texas A&M, their only blemish is probably to one of the most improved teams that we saw this year. So I think they're going to reset. They're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win by a comfortable 10 points. What are your
Uh,
thoughts?
yeah, I 10 is a lot, but I do think Texas A&M will win this game. I'm thinking I don't want to discount how good Michigan, Miami's offense is. I think it'll be like in the 6 to 8 range, maybe. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas A&M will be able to overpower Miami here.
Okay.
Cool. So that takes care of the first round. Aaron, I want to ask you, how do you see the bracket playing out? Let's play a little game here. So last week we made some predictions on how we see the semifinals playing out. You mentioned it would be Texas Tech versus Indiana, and then Ohio State versus UGA. I said it would be Oregon versus Oklahoma, and then UGA versus Ohio State. So we kind of disagreed on one half of it and agreed on the other half. Do you still agree with those semifinals?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to, I guess, walk through my quarterfinals and like reasoning for that?
Yeah, let's definitely get into that. I would just like to say my Oregon Oklahoma matchup in the semifinals. As I was diving a little bit deeper into it, I am a little shaky on the Oklahoma pick. I'm not sure if they'll be able to beat Indiana, but if we ball, I'm gonna go Oklahoma. If I'm right, I'm right. But go ahead,
Fair.
tell me how we get there. What are your thoughts on how we
Yeah.
get there?
So, like you said, the bottom two teams in the playoff bracket, I don't think they have a fair chance against Oregon or Ole Miss. So
Yeah,
just gonna push those games up. Um, we already talked about Texas A&M. I think they'll be the better team, and they'll play Ohio State. And then again, I think Bama's gonna bounce back in this game against Oklahoma, and I think they're gonna find a way to win. Uh, so I have my quarterfinals set for Oregon, Texas Tech, Bama, Indiana, Ole Miss, UGA, and Texas A&M and Ohio State. Um, of those matchups, first with Oregon and Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech is still being, undervalued and underrated in a lot of these predictions I see. I
yeah,
think they're going to prove a lot of people wrong, and I think they're going to respectfully. I think they're going to punch this Oregon team in the face in terms of explosiveness on offense and stopping them on defense.
yeah. It's been
So
done before, right? That's
yeah,
how
so I
Indiana
got
was able to win.
exactly. So I got Texas Tech winning there for the Bama Indy game. I think it's going to be closer than people think. But Indiana, they're top rated for a reason. They've proven they can hang with great teams, so they're going to win this one. Ole Miss UGA, that'll be a rematch. I think UGA will win more comfortably there. It'll be lower scoring because UGA's defense has improved so much, and I think they'll win that game. And then lastly, Texas A&M, Ohio State. I think that one will be higher scoring than people will think. Uh, Ohio State, they haven't really had to score a lot this season, but I think they will have to score more than they are used to in this game. But I think
Hmm.
they'll find a way to win. And so that will get me to the same semis that I had. I had Texas Tech and Indy, and then Ohio State, Georgia.
Cool. Cool, and we'll give our natty picks in just a moment. So let's play out my scenario here. Oregon, Texas Tech. So Oregon is a much bigger, physical, faster team than probably anyone Texas Tech has faced. They have a very balanced offensive attack. I think they end the Red Raiders season here. Although now that I hear, how was Indiana able to beat Oregon? Um, Elite defensive line and linebacker play, and the Red Raiders have their linebacker won the linebacker award, so they have the best linebacker in the country, right? So I don't know. Now I'm kind of questioning it. I'll keep my pick, but that might be a way Oregon kind of stumbles there. Moving on to the next game, OU versus Indiana. The Heisman, winner Fernando Mendoza, he's already made short work of the top two defenses in the country, that being Ohio State and Oregon, respectively, in total yards given up. Now he's going to go up against another top 10 defense. How Oklahoma plays defense is a little different than those other teams that I mentioned. Oklahoma shuts down the run game better than those two teams that I mentioned before in the Big Ten. Indiana has an okay, not great run game. Oklahoma has the opportunity to make Indiana more one-dimensional than any team has before this season. Aaron, I'm about to get into some third down statistics. OU defense has a third down conversion rate of 29%, so under a third of your drives are making it past third down. That ranks them sixth nationally. So I think a lot of Fernando Mendoza's drives will be cut short. With that being said, I think Oklahoma is able to win a squeaker. We've seen some games where Indiana can't score much, namely the Big Ten championship game. So it won't take many. It doesn't have to take a lot of points to beat Indiana, even though they have the most points scored per game, in the country. So I think Oklahoma will be able to squeak one out there. Moving on to the Ole Miss UGA rematch, similar things that you said. Ole Miss is Ole Missing their head coach, so I don't see them getting past Georgia if Georgia continues to play the dominant defense that we saw them play in the fourth quarter against Trinidad Chambliss the first time they played, and that's the brand of defense that they've been playing since then. So if we extrapolate that a little bit, I think Georgia wins that one more comfortably than they did the first time. Texas A&M, Ohio State. If there's a team that's going to make Marcel Reed to get him to make bad decisions that we've seen a few times throughout this season, I think it's Ohio State, throughout the rest of this playoffs. Ohio State is great at disguising their coverages. That might be a long night for Marcel Reed. And so my semifinals is back to Oregon, Oklahoma, UGA, Ohio State. For Natty picks, let's play out how we think these semifinals are going to go. I went back into the notes again, Aaron, to see who we picked for our national championship picks. I had picked UGA. You had picked Penn State. Now, in a different universe, Penn State could have been here for sure. Maybe not after losing that second or third game, but in a world, they could have been here. So, I think you gave your semifinals first. So let me play through my semifinals and Natty picks. So, I think Oklahoma's run of defensively winning games ends there. I think Oregon will be able to overpower Oklahoma at this point, so they'll make it to the finals. UGA, Ohio State. I'm gonna have to pull my fandom out a little bit. I think UGA, the way that they've been ascending, it will be able to take care of Ohio State and rattle Julian Sand. I think that's how Indiana was able to win the game, especially and have them score such little points. That's how Texas was able to reduce the amount of points that Ohio State was able to score. Yes, it was Julian Sand's first game, but they were able to keep him at bay, bother him a lot. And so I think UGA can do that. And yeah, so I think UGA will win that one. So now we got Oregon versus UGA. And I said it in episode 1 of this show that I put money on 3 teams to win the Natty: Oregon, UGA, and Texas. Texas is definitely out. So I'm a winner either way, but I think Dan Lanning has a Kirby Smart problem. I think that will weigh on him, and so UGA will win another Natty. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'll go back to my semifinals. So I got Texas Tech, Indiana. Going to be a high-scoring, explosive game, but Indiana is going to be the more explosive team. They'll win that game. Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman winner of the year, is going to shine in that game, I think, and they'll beat this Texas Tech team. On the other side, the tougher matchup is going to be Ohio State, UGA, where I think it's going to be so close. But the team that we've seen win these close games and, figure it out and have some type of separation, whether it's special teams or defense or just this play or that play, it always seems to be UGA. And so because they've been in these moments all year where they know how to win close games like this, I have them winning that game. So my national championship matchup is going to be Indiana versus UGA. I may pull up my fandom a little bit here because Indiana, I mean, they're blemish free. It's hard to say that a team that hasn't been beaten is going to be beat, but I think just the because Georgia has been one of the hottest teams coming into the college football playoff, that they will find a way to win, and they will be national champions as well.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, guys. Well, that's our official picks of how everything's going to play out for the rest of this season. We'll be back. We're planning some instant reaction videos for all of the postseason games the rest of this season. So stay tuned for that. They'll be short. Don't worry. And yeah, we're very excited for this weekend. I don't know what we're going to talk about on Thursday, but we'll find some stuff to talk about. We'll do a deeper analysis where we can for all of that. But appreciate you guys watching First and Short. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.